The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
My name is Lawrence Brooks, and you're listening to the Hoop Ball Mavericks podcast. Ever since I started this podcast, people have been asking me for betting tips. I will always get asked, who you got, Lakers or Clippers, Brady or Mahomes? And I'll tell you what I tell them. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I tell people to bet with MyBookie. MyBookie rep is rock solid, and they've got the best odds, contests, and promotions in the business. They're the only place I trust to handle my NBA-related bets. The one sportsbook guaranteed to give me the best lines for March Madness, Tuesday night basketball, Thursday night, and everything in between. And you know me, I don't give out my stamp of approval easily. To earn it, you've got to be the best at what you do, and my bookie is the best sports book out there, period. It's simple. Sign up, enter promo code HoopBall, and get your deposit matched away halfway up to $1,000. Head over to MyBookie if you want to add a little excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Bet with the best, bet with MyBookie. Again, thank you very much, you guys. You're back. This is the Hoop Ball Mavericks podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence Brooks, and we had quite an eventful weekend. You know, I talked to you guys on Thursday, I want to say, and I wanted to preview the upcoming weekend's games. And one of the first things I said is we have a ton of winnable games coming up. Ton of winnable games. And lo and behold, this turned into the load management weekend, which is just a disappointment and a letdown for several reasons. And I'm just kind of jumping into it because it's a little bit of a rant here. Not a rant of anger, but more so a rant of love, concern, and confusion. First, you know, going into Friday's game against the Pacers, I mean, we found out that Luka wasn't going to play. Fair enough. And apparently his back injury or, back issue crept up on him, and so it made him have to sit for a game. And that's fine, but one thing I would ask is, how bad was it? And again, I'm not questioning the injury or the validity of the report on the injury. My concern is more so that the Mavericks are in a predicament where COVID really put them behind the 8 ball to start the year. And if you have players that are physically able to go, they have to play. At this point, you just have to, because the standings are so close towards the bottom of the playoff race that it just makes it extremely difficult to make up those games when guys are sitting out constantly. I mean, the Mavericks are in 8th place right now at 23-21. The Grizzlies are in 9th at 21-22. The Warriors are in 10th at 22-24. And so the play-in game is for the 8, 9, and 10 spots. They will battle it out for the 7 and 8 seed. And the Mavericks these are very winnable games for them. So if Luka, let's say for instance, Luka was able to go and they thought it was just best that he sit out. Now, if you're playing the long game and you think there's, you're thinking about the long term in terms of, overall health and going into next season, and you don't really feel like this season is something you can make a push for a championship or make noise in the playoffs, completely understandable. But all indications to me it seems as if from a distance, the Mavericks are playing to win, and they think that they can win this year. Do they think they can win the championship? Maybe not. But do they think they can go further in the playoffs than most people maybe expect? I think so. And so they made these moves coming into this year with that in mind. And so it was just disappointing to see Luka have to sit out, especially when they've been one of the hotter teams in the NBA over their last 15 or so games. And then you come into this weekend, or you have a stretch of games where there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule and guys are sitting out. And so the load management for me, it just comes at such a weird and off time where you would want to make sure everyone's available for the games that maybe seemingly are very winnable, and then maybe games where you're not sure, or it's in the balance, or it's against a team that's above you. Maybe you sit your star or two, or however you would like to do it. But when you have games on the schedule that you know if everyone's there is likely a win, you have to play as many of those games as possible. So with that being said, Friday night's game against the Pacers was a winnable game. They actually had an opportunity. And the thing I like most, regardless of the fact that they lost, the final score ended up being 109-94. It was very clear that they were missing some pieces. Obviously, their biggest piece being Luka, and he's the engine that runs everything for them offensively. They couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. I mean, they shot 22% from the three-point line. They shot 41% overall. They literally only hit 8 threes. And they had a stretch of games where they hit about 15 threes for, I want to say, at least 7 or 8 games straight. Like, they were on a really good streak. And they've been shooting the ball well from three since the All-Star break at about 41% for the entire, for the team. Like, Dallas Mavericks as a team has shot 41%. But this game could not get any shots to go. A lot of that had to do with guys taking shots that they weren't accustomed to, because with Luka, you get a lot of open looks. And in this game, that condensed those looks, and guys were trying to play make and make things happen themselves. And that just wasn't working out in their favor. But what I did like is something I wanted to see going into this game, is what I spoke about on the previous pod, was the marquee matchup of Porzingis versus Sabonis. And even more so, I just wanted to see a Porzingis-centered offense and how he would respond to it being all about him and it being his show. And it's funny because in some of his quotes, he has said, and this is me paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact quote, but he says something to the extent of, we're better offensively when we're moving the ball more. And I kind of get the feeling that that's coded language for, I could use more touches. And maybe he wants them in more advantageous spots on the floor, and not where it's like later in the shot clock where it's just a do or die ticking time bomb where he has to just do something no matter what. He can't pass it to anyone. So with that being said, in this game he had 31 points, 18 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block. He took 28 shots. He was 3 of 9 from the 3. But what I liked is that he was aggressive. He was assertive, and he came into this game knowing that the only chance they had of winning was everything going through him. There was even stretches where he looked like he was a little tired, and he still played through it, and I love that. I'm such a Porzingis fan. I'm such a believer. I think he has the dog factor in him of a guy who's hyper competitive, wants to win, and is willing to go toe-to-toe with anyone to get a win. And that's all you can ask for a guy. Is just to not back down. And in this game, he took it upon himself to try to will this team to victory. They just couldn't make shots, and ultimately, once the fourth quarter came, T.J. McConnell made a couple of big shots. Sabonis made a couple of big plays. LeVert made a big 3. And it was just, their guys just made more shots in the last 4 minutes than we did. And this game was actually in the balance of getting a win. But again, it's a make or miss league, as we've heard a million times. And that literally is what happened down the stretch. Dallas could not make shots, and they had a couple of nasty series of plays offensively and defensively where they just could not make the correct play, and the lead swell, and obviously they threw in the white flag. They knew that the game was over, and that was to be that. But I really loved the way Porzingis showed up in this game. I felt like the guys competed. The rebounding battle, they actually won the rebounding battle 51-49. So that's a good indication, because like I said, they don't rebound that well. Some of that is an effort thing. Some of that is a personnel thing, but they just didn't get it done. And so this game, they took a loss, and you will always wonder, what if Luka played? What if Luka played? But we won't know. So on to that, and they had a back-to-back. And some of this sitting the stars was the fact that they have 6 games in like 9 days. But either way, if the complimentary guys have to play all these minutes, why not play your stars? If they're healthy, play these guys. So then we get into the New Orleans game. And we have, lo and behold, Porzingis is out for load management, managing his injuries. Luka doesn't play. So now both of our stars are out. Neither of them play in the game. Not only does it make it a situation where now could potentially win if we have one star, but neither of them play. Neither of those guys play, and now we're looking at a situation where it's like, are we just throwing in the white flag for this game? And again, they're in 8th place, but they just don't have room for just throwing away games. It's just something you can't do. And so now in this game, it literally just came down to the fact that they had stars and we did not. Point blank. The score was 103 to 112. The Mavericks actually took a lead a couple of times. So this game was closer than expected. And it just kind of broke our hearts a little bit, I'm sure, because we're sitting here thinking, okay, can we steal one tonight? Would this be a game that we can steal? And it just did not happen because literally Zion took control of this game down the stretch, and it just was no contest. There was no answer for him offensively. Jalen Brunson is playing his heart out. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a night to remember. He had one of his better nights at 30 points. He was 5 of 10 from the 3, 11 of 19 from the field. Jalen Brunson had 24 points. He was 10 of 15 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. And so they were the catalyst for this team on Saturday night, but it just wasn't much more to be had. Obviously, without Porzingis and without Luka, you're just really fighting an uphill battle. I mean, it's really an uphill battle. It's just tough to get a hold of a game like that when both of your stars are out and you're playing against a fully loaded Pelicans team. They had their entire team at their disposal. At the very least, they had all their stars and their starting lineup played. I mean, obviously with Lonzo being out, that's one thing, but they still had Brandon Ingram. They still had Zion Williamson. They still had Steven Adams. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker was there, who's a great backup guard. And Bledsoe. I have my thoughts on Bledsoe, but again, he's a starter-level guy. He's someone who they can rely on every night in terms of just availability and continuity. And the Mavericks suffered from not having that. And so it was disappointing because while the Pelicans have been on the upswing, if you have Porzingis and Luka, there's a chance they probably win this game. But they just did not have them. And again, we just dropped 2 games all because stars weren't there. And that doesn't guarantee that they win if they're there, but you want to give yourself the best chance to win every night. And unless these guys have legitimate injury concerns, they should be playing. If you're trying to get into the playoffs and if you're trying to make something of this season. Now, if you just want to say we're just out here to compete and play every night, fine. But if you're not looking to win, let's develop some of the younger guys. I mean, you're playing Dorian Finney-Smith high minutes. He played like 37 minutes against the Pelicans. You play Maxi Kleber 31 minutes. Boban played 28 minutes. That's close to 30. Josh Richardson played 34. Brunson 39. Tim Hardaway 34. These guys are playing high minutes, and I just don't understand why we wouldn't play Tyler Bay, wouldn't play Josh Green, and maybe even Nate Hinton. Like, find minutes for these guys to see if they can be productive. Josh Green, we don't know if he's ready to play or not yet. But the thing about it is, if we're sitting our stars, why not play our younger guys? I mean, we're already... I don't understand. Are we thinking that we can still win these games? Or are we at a point to where we're getting ready for next year, or we're not really investing heavily in winning this year? Either way, something has to give. If you're not going to play the studs, play some of the younger guys. I mean, you took Josh Green in the first round. Give him minutes. Tyler Bay has proven in the G League that you can play him sparing minutes here and there. And who knows, he might end up actually being ahead of the curve because he was an upperclassman coming out of college and might be ready now, but you're just not playing him. And it doesn't make any sense if we're going with the load management theory that we're playing all the complimentary guys, high minutes in the 30s every night, and it's a constant grind. And then we're sitting the stars because we want to manage their load, but we don't want to manage the complementary guys' load. And then we have a situation where we come into games where the stars are there and they're fresh, and now they need the complementary pieces to help them get over the hump in a win, and they're just tired. So either way, you're losing on both ends. So why not give some minutes to the younger guys to help them develop, to get some further evaluation on what they can do, and maybe you have a clear understanding of what they can or how they can contribute, maybe later in the season or going into next season. But playing the supporting cast so many minutes per game and not playing your stars when you don't want to play them, but then you're not playing none of the younger guys, I just don't get that method of playing basketball, or basketball for the Mavericks. Like, which direction are we going in? We have to pick a lane, and I think it's just not clear at the moment. So here we go. Tonight we play OKC here on Monday night, which should be a winnable game, which the stars should be back. Everyone should be intact. And so this is a game that they lost that just wasn't really sure how they lost that game. Like, this was a game where they sat their guy. Dallas sat their stars. They didn't play, and we weren't really sure why until it happened. But Luka's back tonight after 2-game absence. That should be helpful. But again, speaking of the guys who are playing high minutes, a guy like Josh Richardson, he's in a rut. They could really use a boost from him, but maybe give him a rest tonight. But they won't, and he's continuing to play a lot of men. They need him on the defensive end. And in this game, with no Gilgeous-Alexander, no Al Horford, they don't really have a ton of guys that are going to hurt you, but you need him for defensive purposes, so it's hard to sit him on different nights. But tonight they need to be fully locked in and fully ready to go. But they could use Josh Richardson to come out of his rut, because when he plays well, they win a lot, especially when he scores. I want to say when he's in double digits, they win most of those games. But lately he shot atrocious from the field, especially from the three-point line. It's just looking bad. Shot selection isn't great. Turning the ball over, just not looking good. But they have to continue to rebound. This team, I mean, they had Moses Brown, who just had 23 rebounds the other night. Dallas cannot afford to not rebound tonight. They need to do that at a healthy clip and give some minutes to these younger guys. I mean, this is a game where they should win. It should be a win that they get handily, and then give some of these younger guys some minutes and cut the minutes for the supporting cast where you can find the opportunity to. And this should be a game that they should handle and should be in control in the fourth quarter and be able to give some younger guys some minutes and sneak some time off for these complementary pieces, because they'll need time off too. If we're talking about load managing, they need it just as much, because they're playing heavy minutes every night. So hopefully they get a win. Hopefully they're able to pull it together, because like I said, they had won like 14 out of their last 19 games. Then they go on a 2-game losing streak, but at the same time they won all those games to put themselves back into the playoff picture. We don't want a situation where they get themselves further down the standings, and then you're in must-win mode in the last month of the season, and God forbid someone's hurt, and now you're really in a situation where it's must-win, and now you don't even have everyone at your disposal. So let's go, Mavs. Let's pull this thing together, get back on the right track, and start winning games. But thankfully, we get Luka back tonight. So thank you guys for listening. Went on a little bit of a rant. It wasn't necessarily a post-game report. This was more so what I saw over the weekend and how things unfolded. It just wasn't great. Wasn't the most enjoyable weekend for the Mavs in terms of who they had available. I mean, not having your stars there really sucks. So let's see if we can turn it around. Again, subscribe, download the podcast on all streaming platforms. You can catch me on Twitter at LBSaidit. That's LBSAIDIT. And at HoopBallMavs, that's HOOPBALLMAVS. Talk to you soon. Let's get a win tonight. Everyone be safe. Go Mavs.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.